Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we are laser focused on Lesson 21 from the Classic Vocabulary Guide 504 Absolutely Essential Words. But look, we're not just going to read off a boring list of dictionary definitions. No way. We're going to dive into how these 12 essential words actually live and breathe in real, everyday sentences. By the end of this, you're going to be dropping these into your everyday conversations totally naturally.
So let me kick things off with a bit of a challenge for you. How do you solve a baffling dilemma? Seriously, take a second and think about that. If you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not totally sure what it means to face something that's baffling or what makes a dilemma so uniquely tricky, then you are in the exact right place. Let's unpack the whole shebang together. All right, so here they are, the 12 essential words that make up Lesson 21. Plea, weary, collide, confirm, verify, anticipate, dilemma, detour, merit, transmit, relieve, and baffle. Now, I don't know about you, but rote memorization is incredibly tedious. It just doesn't stick. So instead, we're going to group these words thematically. We'll break them down into 3 buckets: words of struggle, words of action, and words of resolution. Trust me, this framework makes everything so much easier to digest.
Section 1. Words of struggle. When things get tough.
Okay, so these are the words we reach for when we're hitting a wall, facing exhaustion, or just dealing with heavy roadblocks. Our very first word is weary. At its core, it simply means tired. But it's not just a physical tiredness. It's often a deep mental or emotional fatigue. As our source material points out, you might say, I am weary of debating the same topic all day. I mean, we've all been there, right? It perfectly captures that feeling of just being completely drained.
And the thing is, sometimes that weariness comes directly from facing our next word, a dilemma. A dilemma isn't just any old choice. It's a situation requiring a choice between 2 evils or just a really, really difficult choice. It's not deciding what you want to eat for dinner. It's when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place and both options are tough. As one of our source sentences wisely advises, it's sensible not to panic in the face of a dilemma. Keeping a cool head is absolutely key.
Which brings us to our third word of struggle, baffle. To baffle means to be too hard to understand or solve. The source has some fantastic examples for this. Like, you might be totally baffled as to how a mediocre player earns so much money. Or maybe the topic of relativity is just completely baffling to you. The text even points out that Sherlock Holmes would undoubtedly have been baffled by the way a particular crime was committed. It's that feeling of absolute, head-scratching puzzlement.
Section 2. Words of action. Making moves.
Now that we've got a handle on the struggle, let's switch gears and look at the words that describe taking action. First up in this bucket is collide, which means to come together with force. It's a highly active, intense, and often destructive word. Our text uses a pretty stark example for this. When 2 autos collided, the people in the fragile, smaller car perished. It paints this immediate, vivid picture of high-impact action and serious consequence. Now, to avoid colliding, you might need to take a detour. A detour is simply a roundabout way. It's altering your path to get around an obstacle. The source illustrates this perfectly with a really relatable scenario. In order to evade city traffic, Anthony took a detour. It's that physical action of changing your route on the fly to solve a problem right in front of you. Our next action word is a bit more communicative, transmit. This means to send over, pass on, pass along, or let through. Usually we're talking about data or messages. As the source highlights, scientists can now transmit messages from space vessels back to Earth. It's the active pushing out of information across a distance, like a giant invisible wire connecting 2 points.
Rounding out our action words, we have plea. A plea is a request or an appeal, but usually it carries this weight of being urgent or emotional. Notice how the source anchors this concept with 3 very distinct scenarios. We've got employees turning in a plea to their boss for higher pay, a president's urgent plea to an enemy to release captives, or a lawyer in a courtroom submitting a plea for a light sentence. In all these cases, making a plea is an action you take to try and change a difficult situation.
Section 3. Words of resolution. Finding the answers. Okay, let's move into words that deal with finding answers and evaluating outcomes. I really want to pause here for a second because this is fascinating. We have these 2 incredibly similar words, verify and confirm. Let's put them side by side. On the left, verify means to prove to be true. On the right, confirm means to prove to be true or correct, or to make certain. They are so close,
But look at the subtle nuance in how our text uses them. A clerk in an office might verify the data they are looking at, checking the individual facts. But scientists might confirm a grand theory, like years of research confirming that smoking is harmful. So you verify a specific piece of information, you confirm a broader truth. Make sense?
Speaking of looking ahead, our next word is anticipate, which means to look forward to or expect something to happen. The source text gives us a really solid example. Authorities might anticipate a panic if certain news is revealed to the public. It's all about looking into the future and bracing for the resolution of an upcoming event.
Next up is merit, defined as goodness, worth, or value. Whenever you're judging the resolution of something, you are basically judging its merit. The source offers this wonderfully provocative sample sentence for us to chew on. There's little merit in lying to those you love. It asks us to evaluate the worth of an action, and firmly concludes that dishonesty simply holds no value.
And our final word in this category is relieve. To relieve is to make less, make easier, or reduce the pain of something. It really is the ultimate resolution word, right? The most straightforward illustration provided is a medical one. The pills relieved the pain from the wound received in the conflict. It's the lifting of a burden.
Section 4. Safety in the air. The contextual journey.
Now, the real genius of Lesson 21 is how it takes all these individual words and synthesizes them into one seamless, real-world narrative. Before we take our story to the sky, let's visually anchor the stakes here. The source illustration shows two bicycles colliding head-on. Not great, right? Now, I want you to imagine taking that risk of a sudden, forceful collision and elevating it thousands of feet into the air with massive commercial airplanes. The stakes, literally, couldn't be higher. Listen to how perfectly the author weaves our vocabulary right into the opening of the story. The most persistent plea of weary pilots has always been for a machine that would warn them that they were about to collide with an oncoming airplane. Right off the bat, we see the urgent request, the plea, from the tired, weary pilots desperately trying to prevent a disastrous event where planes come together with force, where they collide. The narrative continues to build the case. Records confirm that the number of collisions is increasing each year, and pilots verify hundreds of reports of near misses. Oh, this is great. Here we see our two closely related words in action. The broad historical records make certain or confirm the dangerous trend, while the individual pilots prove true or verify the specific data points of near misses. It's just a perfect contextual showcase of those two words. And then the tension rises as technology steps in. Recently, a system that would electronically anticipate oncoming airplanes was devised, and the pilot's dilemma to dive or to climb, to detour to left or right, may be solved. So the system expects or anticipates the danger, which helps solve that terrible choice between two evils, the dilemma of deciding exactly which roundabout way or detour the pilot must take to survive. Finally, we reach the conclusion of our story. The system has merit, but most aviation experts feel that only a system that watches every airplane in the sky will relieve a problem that tends to baffle everyone who attempts to find a solution. The proposed fix has worth and goodness. It has merit. But only total, big-picture surveillance will truly reduce the pain, relieve, this highly confusing issue that continues to prove too hard to solve or baffle the experts. It just beautifully illustrates how all 12 words from Lesson 21 weave together to create a single, cohesive thought. So we've covered the struggles, the actions, and the resolutions of Lesson 21, and we've watched them all work together to solve a high-stakes crisis in the sky. It kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How many of our own daily dilemmas could be relieved if we just had the precise vocabulary to accurately describe them? Because when you think about it, once you can properly name a baffling problem, you're already halfway to solving it. I challenge you right now, try to write a single sentence using at least two of these words. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I will see you next time.